Okay. Hello, hello. So I think this is here now the Drive live transmission. Oops, this is advertising. Oops, up. Hello, hello. So this is now today's live transmission. Oops, I have to take off the audio here. Sorry, it's all here. I'm learning every time here a little bit, and I have to put this here. Last time it was a little bit different, and I think this is very nice that we can here sit today. I was somehow expecting my mask, which a friend of mine sent me directly from China, but it didn't arrive yet. So I was somehow a little bit thinking that even if I cannot avoid the circumstances, so maybe I thought I will put my new mask on it, but they didn't arrive yet. So I'm still waiting. If it is ringing here, this might be DHL just during this transmission. Anyhow, we're here all at home in Italy. It's actually the worst. Even yesterday at the news I saw that it is the worst area is even Cremona, so I'm just exactly in the middle of the whole thing. My fortune is that violin makers are not so much in inside between so many people. I didn't go to the soccer match between Atalanta and something else, and so I'm happy. Weeks before I already thought what we can do every day in order to increase our circumstances and to avoid that somebody is getting affected. And so we are all actually at home. Some of my employees are at home working. Some are just in town and they just can go out with the dog to bring the dog outside and do the groceries. Me, myself, I was the last time I was outside, I think 10 days ago to make a nice grocery. And we still have food in the fridge. I'm very happy. Tomorrow is the birthday of my wife. And I'm not an expert about viruses and everything. This was just my wife. And I cannot give any other advice than taking it more serious as it might have been published in your country or where you're living from. Take it serious, and every time you're outside at least and you come back home, wash your hands. I think this is probably the best thing. I believe that even the masks are not helping not to get the virus. It's more a sign that you show other people that you don't want to infect them, and is a good way to show that you are conscious about the environment and about where you're living. And the rest, you can just make the best out of it. I wouldn't say it's my very best time of my life, as it might be for most of us, but I think one of the good things is that we can just make the best out of it. Now I have to put on the audio like this, otherwise it's getting too you can hear me. Jay, Kim, hi Edgar, hi Jay. I have to see how I can do it in a way that I can see the whole thing a little bit better. Johannes Bechlein, hi Edgar, hope you're fine. As you can see, I'm doing fine and I'm trying to do the best out of it, as all of us, and this is the only thing we can do. Everybody, let's make the best out of it. We will pass over. Human beings are born fighters, and we will come over it. That's just the right words, as somebody told me in an email from Hong Kong. And it was a phone call. My neighbor was calling. I will answer. I will call him later on. So Johannes, I have a 16-inch viola that has a lot of problems with strings with higher tensions. At the moment, I can only play dominants. If I try Pirazzi, etc., I get strong Wolftones, mostly on MTA. Okay. Wow, this is not an easy thing. But instead of a good way of getting around with your Wolftone, which is in the circumstances you're living right now really a pain, and then you have to live with this Wolftone, and this is not easy. But if you are, let's say, now you're with your Wolftone, the very best thing probably for you as a musician, if you're not used to take all the strings down, then I would say try to or take off the fine tuner, or you stick on the tailpiece, since you're now at home and you need to get it somehow done. You can put a weight on the tailpiece or on the strings between the tailpiece and the bridge. Something, these things which you use for putting on the paper, something like this, and you just try to connect the two strings in the middle. From the four strings, you just put it on two strings like this, and you slip it up and down, and you try to play. And it could be that only with this is now, I just invented it here on the sofa for you, just to get rid of this Wolftone. The strings, partially you can resolve it a little bit, but it's only a question of weight. And to get it resolved in a better way, when you are able to take off all four strings, even the bridge and everything, and you're used to do this, and even if the sound post would fall down, that you would be able to handle it, then I just would probably move if this is the bridge and this is the tailpiece, then I just would make the tail gut a little bit longer in order that this goes a little bit forwards to the bridge, and then I will pull up all the strings once again. Another thing which I discovered years ago, I remember there was a viola which had a strong Wolftone exactly on the A string, was that I was playing all kind of things. It was just so strong on the A string. And then I discovered that if the neck, the scroll, is a little bit more heavy, you can walk straight, honey. If you put some weight on the scroll, then the wolf goes away. And in that way, I saw that viola had boxwood pegs. So I got these pegs away and I changed them to ebony. Ebony is definitely a little bit more heavy. And so it changed a little bit the weight, and the Wolftone went a little bit more away. And because this worked out very well, I even heard some other makers who inserted inside the peg, they drilled the hole and they put a metal nail inside in order to make it a little bit more heavy. And they made it on the two pegs completely at the very far end. And this was very good and increased as well the outcoming of the Wolftone, which reduced it. Another thing is, if the sound post is a little bit too thin and you make a bigger one, just by this all together, you certainly get it away. Now you, who is used to have this sound, this Wolftone on your instrument, you certainly
it's very difficult to satisfy you, because the first thing you will every time make is just search that Wolftone. But look a little bit on people around you, what they say, and if they also still can hear it. And the last thing, always for the Wolftone, because I want to go really make it exactly. I saw that so many questions are coming in here. Last thing, measure the fingerboard. The fingerboard of a 16 inch, that must be around 30 centimeters, maximum 30.4 maybe, but I think 30 centimeters. If your fingerboard is longer, uh, it could be a nice idea to cut it. Or if the fingerboard is definitely shorter, a longer fingerboard could be also a solution, but it's a little bit more work, you know. But so just consider how the whole thing is working and where you can reduce vibrations or increase vibrations in order to take it away from another part. If all this doesn't work and shops have opened already, then go to the next violin maker and get one of these Wolftone killers, and you get it glued inside underneath the F hole. Oh my God, I cannot talk so much. There's so many questions. J. Kim, hi Edgar. Hi Jay. Affezionato. Oh amore, grazie. Oh amore, grazie. Questi le tolgo se non si sciolgono. No, sì, dopo. Mille grazie. Ah, là. The violinist. What brand of strings do you put on your violin? This is a good question. The violin, the strings I put on my violin. Now, when I tell you now that I don't play the violin, huh? You will love me, huh? But I do have a very strong taste when it comes to the sound of a violin. So, for a long time, I always said that dominant was my basics, you know. But we're still talking about until 10 years, 15 years ago, something like this. And then things started to change a little bit like Windows and Apple, you know. And then the world changed, and they all started with this Eva Pirazzi, and I didn't like them that much. It was a little bit too much, you know, and short life and too much focused, and I like this slightly dirty, mellow sound of the dominant, but still, and at that time, dominant was still the basics of all strings. And you could just, if you hear a violin with dominant, you could judge already its sound. Nowadays, there are so many strings outside, so many super good strings, much better strings than dominant. But it's difficult to compare the instruments among them because the strings are all different. So to compare now instruments, you actually should have all the instruments with the same strings, right? So the strings I would love, actually, on fairs I put on Eva Pirazzi, because if all the other ones have Eva Pirazzi, you somehow want some basics, yeah. But if I could choose, I love the Olive G string very much. The D string for violin dominant, still the silver one, I think is very nice. The A string I like tonica, synoxa, tonica, I like very much on the A string, and the E I like a Kaplan E string loop, and that's what I would put on. Yeah. Um, so I would mix them completely, and apparently would say that the Olive G string doesn't fit to the dominant D string, and so on. But once you have these four strings on, you would see how nicely fit together, and it's a really a nice, powerful sound. This is what I would put on a violin. Is just my personal taste. Uh, Amahor7. Hi Edgar, good to see you. I've been following your channel since I discovered it some time ago. I'm very happy that you are here. Peter Guy, are there any temporary fixes to bridge feet that do not fit properly? Like putting a thin strip of paper to close the gap. Ah, that would be lovely, huh? Some, yeah. To be honest, I have to have a sip of coffee while I'm thinking what kind of advice I can give you. First of all, when you see this, you say, who did it like this? No, actually, I like to put lipstick on the top and then just very little, very little. And then I put the bridge in the right position, and then I look at the bridge feet and I see the red in this. If you take red lipstick, you see red signed on the bridge where it's touching. And then I, with a knife or a chisel, then I just take it away, but it has to be very sharp in order that I only take away where it is signed. And you keep on doing this until it is completely red, right? And then completely at the very end, I take a little bit all red away, except at the very, very outer part a little bit. On a cello bridge, it depends if it's French or Belgian bridge. On the French bridge, I make it exactly the same way as on the violin bridge, that on the very large and extreme point at the very outer edge, that I leave a red line that it's first touching there and then the rest slowly attaches. On a Belgium, I make it exactly opposite. I make it that it's first touching in the inside and then out, because the Belgian bridge tends to open up too much. And in this way, I a little bit avoid it, that it's opening up too much. But the best way, I think, is to do it with a knife or a chisel. I do it with the chisel. All magic things and tools where you have the bridge on, like on a small card with a roll, and then you put sandpaper on the instrument and then you just scratch it. Cha, 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 cha. This might be nice if you have a rental program with Chinese instruments and you just have to throw them out. The violin making I'm doing, and the reason that this channel exists, is that I want to show you that the result of a good sounding instrument is not made that it's just throw the things fast, quick together, and then it somehow it sounds how it sounds. No, it's completely a step by step, and you have to make it in certain procedure and with a certain precision in order that the result that comes out is under control. And then later on, if you face a problem and you don't like the sound, that you can adjust it. So now if your bridge, what's your name? Richard? No, is it? No, it's not Richard. Who was the one with the P. Cook Guy? If your bridge doesn't fit properly, this gives already too much space that the result which comes out is not the maximum and you don't have it under control. This might be also that one feet to another other is not cut it properly, and then the whole bridge starts to bend and has tensions inside the bridge plate. And all this together is so complex that you just make yourself life very difficult. Certainly, if your quality of the instrument is not this high, then you can also try to make it somehow yourself. But I would probably just get it touched with a proper knife or a chisel, very well sharpened and very nice. And the lipstick, I think, is a great idea, you know. That doesn't mean that now an instrument, by the way, I just have to go back to this question. That doesn't mean that now an instrument where the bridge feet don't fit very well doesn't sound well, okay? it's rather a question if you want to get the maximum out of it, and you have to do all steps in a certain way in order that you're not losing anything. But maybe your instrument with a lousy fitted bridge sounds perfect and the sound post is done completely in a different way and it sounds great. Never change a winning horse, okay? Just make things once you think it could be better. Thin strip of paper to close the gap. You can try. You know, if you're not able to cut now, but I have never seen a good sounding instrument with paper stripes underneath the bridge foot. Okay, this is just something I just want to say. J. Kim, how often should I get a bow rehair for cello? Good question. I'm not a bow maker, but Jay, what I just saw is that it depends certainly of how much you're playing, because you're on one side you have the hair, and on the other side you have metal, which is vibrating and is like scratching like crazy. So at a certain point, this hair is getting weak, and you will see that it is breaking. So a good sign. It depends also on the quality of your hair. And if it's too white, your hair of the bow, for instance, then it was bleached very much, and then it's even weaker. So if you have a slightly grayish, brownish, or white mixture here, it's probably a sign that it has been bleached less, and the property of your hair is better, so it could last for longer. But I would say, if you are a professional musician, I see here a small window, something next with people standing. Who knows? If you're a professional player, I would say every 2 months you need a rehair, maybe even every month if you're a soloist. And if you're just an amateur player, once a year. If you just play sometimes once every 2 or 3 years, something like this, okay? If you don't play too much, watch out not to store the bow for years and years, and then the small animals are eating the hair underneath your bed and stuff like this, okay? So you should get it somehow rehaired. And the best thing is, now that we all have smartphones, you get it rehaired and you just decide, I'm going to get it rehaired, and then you say 2 years, let's say, you put it 2 years rehair. You will be surprised how, when this notice is coming up, popping up on your cell phone, rehair your bow. Okay, then what else do we have here? How many people are here? 13. Oh, this is good. And 6 thumbs up. Very good, huh? Now I have to drink my coffee, otherwise I am. Bostai. Hi. Hello. Huh? How can I help you, Bostai? J. Kim, messaggio ritirato. Okay, he took away his message. Maybe I gave already the answer. But if you have some other questions, you can certainly ask me. I'm always here. Wait, is this Jay from Instagram? I don't know. Jay, are you from Instagram? I don't know. You know, sounds like Anna. It looks like Anna, not sounds like Anna. This is my daughter. Without her, it's more difficult. Jay cancelled his Masha. Basia. She took away her. No, she wrote it later on a better message. Soon I will see it. Then here, Postai, would you please tell us more information about violin? How select? Wow, ne? Let me see. How to select a violin. This is a good question. I made a video about it. I think you saw it as like 2 or 3 videos ago, right? And sometimes when you're at home like this, you know, just some little small things which you repeat every day. So nice. So this coffee makes part of this small game here. In my workshop, we have the Saeco, which makes a lot of noise. And You don't even appreciate the coffee that much than here at home now. Yeah? And then we have already small Easter eggs out of good chocolate. So I will have one. So how to choose and select a violin? This is a good, probably the first thing actually is that you have to decide a little bit what you are playing right now and what you would love to, or how much you're willing or able to spend right now for your new instrument. I just wrote an email before to someone, Damian, I think was it, who is a little bit worried about if he will make increasing steps on his playing when he gets now a better violin. First had a Chinese violin, then something 2 times more expensive, and now he's considering getting something, a Scala Perfetta from my workshop. For a professional musician, a Scala Perfetta is always a easygoing instrument, nothing serious for them, Some people come into my workshop and they just are disappointed that I don't have anything from 100,000 euro up, I'm sorry, I've just specialized on my instruments I'm doing, but for every instrument, every category, there is a kind of small part of musicians who is interested, and they believe it's only this is possible. Some people think an instrument cannot be more expensive than, and then you name it. So you have to make a little bit of decision. And then it's rather a question of being able to understand that what is going to be offered to you for that money is actually correct and makes sense. And that's all. Me, myself, I would buy immediately an instrument for a few hundred euro if it would be great. But for some people, there is no difference between a Chinese instrument and an Italian-made instrument or a Cremonese-made instrument. I just saw a few videos even on YouTube where they take just like a Chinese copy of a Gibson electric guitar. And I was thinking, hey, this is a good idea because I would do that as well. I would love to do that as well. I just take an instrument from Amazon maybe, and then we just look at it carefully, and then you will see, and then when you have it next to each other and then I show you, maybe then you can learn also something. But right now, Amazon doesn't send any violins, only books and videos here in Italy. So, the best way to see if what is going to be offered is that you can trace a little bit where it is coming from. It's a little bit like the fake news. You get now these days, you get so many messages. Everybody is expert about this coronavirus. And you get messages that the mother of a friend of someone, and then you see somebody chatting and talking, and she knows everything better than the rest of us. But if you don't know who is that one, and who is that mother, and where's she living, and what's her name, and everything precisely, I don't like this, okay? And same is in violin making. Now, there are so many instruments, especially, I don't want to talk bad about eBay, but stay away from nice offers from eBay on violins. On Amazon, I didn't really look on violins because I never considered of buying a violin on Amazon. But on eBay, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, I looked into eBay, and now still I get all these stupid violins. And they're all made Chinese instruments. And then for 446 euros, you get the old Italian violin. Just wake up. You have to understand that this is impossible, okay? So, if the origin of the instrument is not clear, stay away, okay? And in this mess of information about instruments, even, let's say, in the past 20 years ago, the German makers made big mistakes in get them produced in China, and then they said it's a German instrument. It was not a German instrument. Ernst Heinrich Roth, the whole family tradition was ruined by 1 or 2 generations ago when they started to produce in China. I guess now they're working back to get a little bit more reputation again. Uh, the origin and everything is the most important. Same if you come to Cremona and you go and visit the maker and you see them working and you can say, can you make me out of this piece of wood? And can you send me the picture? This is what you can see, this you can trace, but certainly then you have to pay a little bit more. But if you have now, let's say 3,000, and I tell you how it is made and where it is made in Germany with machinery, it comes to Cremona, so then you can understand how the whole price is created, and it's expensive. So this is a very important matter. So this is one was probably a very important part before you even go to the list I made the video about. And then already I would say everything I told in my video about your first impression, the first impression when you talk to somebody, the first impression, your feelings, human beings lost a little bit the ability to get to trust in their feelings. You know, they always try to make it all logic and trust yourself on your feelings, you know. And if it was a lemon, then just say, hey, this was a lesson for my life. But, you know, trust on your feelings. And it should be a good instrument, should be part of yourself, and you have to identify a little bit. So if you can't stand me, great. You will find somebody else who you love, you like, and he's the best one, you know. So a little bit it has to be a mixture of budget, relation, trust, your values. It all comes together in what you're choosing at the very end. So it depends also from what instrument you come and what you want to buy. You know, some people only want an antique instrument, and if somebody gets into the door, I want an antique instrument, 100,000. Certainly, then the instrument which costs only 58,000 becomes 108,000. You know, because you spend 100,000, you're not happy. You know, so watch out a little bit. Check around, search around, and see how people do their job. Okay. I have to go on, otherwise I don't get new questions here. Oh my God, there's so many, and I talk too much. I lost now where I have been. Very nice. Have to try the paperclip with sound post. This is no problem. Also, I have a setter. Thank you so much. So I hope that Johannes will figure that out, and by the latest in 1 week, he will tell me if there's still the Wolftone. Okay, this is actually good. Zoltan, how to fix fifths only by sound post. I don't know what fifths are, but if it's this, in German they call it Gil, or it's an ugly tone, which is in the note, in some notes inside. Then I probably think that it could be with the sound post. Yes. This is a little bit difficult to answer because in this case there's so many small things which could be, you know. I'm not sure if it's like a tone which is just on some notes you're playing. Then it's very likely that the whole thing is not centered. So you could also a little bit move the bridge sideways, and not much, just a little bit. some I learned it from a musician in Germany. With the bow, with this bow is straight like this, and the instrument you put on the side, and then you just give it a small on the side of the bridge, just a little bit, and you don't have to see that the bridge is moving, but it could also be. But it's usually if an instrument has this, it's a sign that it's all not perfectly lined up, and it's a little bit of problem. Can also try with the gut, with the tailpiece gut, the gut string on the side, and then you can a little bit move on one side and another and see if it's getting better. But I don't know. Amayor 7, I've got the Steiner copy. It sounds good, but the varnish is pretty scratched up. At the bridge, it is marred to the wood. Would you recommend touching it up or leave it? Can the color be changed? Well, if it's a real these Steiner, which are like 100 years old, as soon as you start scratching away varnish and revarnishing, you are destroying its little value which it has already. So maybe if the scratches are completely down to the wood and it looks really ugly, then you could put some shellac a little bit on it. But the less you touch, the better it is. And if you're a violin maker or you go to the violin maker, then you can ask for some retouches. But I wouldn't do it myself if I'm not a violin maker. Believe me, and even among violin makers, not all are very good in doing retouch works. If you see a violin and say, "Oh, what a nice retouch," then it's pretty shitty. So I am, for instance, I'm not good in restoration. I'm good in remaking bass bar and all this, but restoration is a different work, And to do good retouch, you need the pigments, you have the right lights, the brushes, and depends on just to get it nicely. Just leave it. Okay. Bazia Ciechatko. Hello, Edgar. I love your channel. I have a violin made by local luthier. Very good. I don't know where the local luthier comes from, but Bazia, I don't know. I feel though that the scroll is a bit heavy. How heavy should a scroll be? And can I request a correction? Well, you are the customers, you can request everything, first of all. But if we go back to the problem of the viola before, which had a Wolftone on the A string, this could be also that the scroll is too small. So, and now I don't want to protect now a local luthier, I don't know. But generally speaking, I think that a heavy scroll is definitely better than a too small and too light one. Okay, this is just my way. And the rest, it's your instrument. You got it made. You have to look at. You look at all the time, and you don't like it, go and get it done. Or maybe you just change the instrument complete. You see another one, say, can I change? If I would probably, yeah. It's like you have a nice car and then it's a shitty color, then you probably want to change it. So this is what I believe. I have to watch out not to use too nasty words here, but I probably you have to live with it. And right now, and during quarantine time, you're connected and closed up with this scroll, which you probably once something you don't like, you continue focusing on it, and it just turns out to be something wow. Yeah, it's not nice. Yeah, so probably I would probably get it somehow. I would try to find a solution. Go frequently to the violin maker. Maybe you see him making nicer scrolls, and you can ask him if you can get a better one or whatever. Could be a problem, a solution, huh? Wow, 23 people here are connected. I'm getting red here and already 14 minutes. Man, I'm talking too much. Zoltan, I find the neck of my violin uncomfortable, but can't find out what exactly the problem is. Can you give me some tips? I think I made in the past also a video about the neck, and the neck itself actually is a underestimated problem of all instruments, because the first thing you see of an instrument is the color, right? And then after the model and all this and the F holes like this and the scroll big and that, the next thing is just like the door handle of a car, you know. The next thing is the neck. You take it in your hand, and in that moment you immediately feel how it is, you know. And if the neck is not correct, or it's too thick, or it is square, or it is thick on one side and there's missing something, or it is banana shaped, which is uncomfortable for probably all positions, then it's really uncomfortable and it's no fun. The neck should be a very clear geometrical shape, which is, since the fingerboard is narrow and then larger, the neck itself is the same thing. And these, even the fingerboards seem to be straight, but is slightly curved on both sides, but slightly, so slightly that you wouldn't even expect that it is hollow. And the neck, the same thing. So, and because it should be slightly hollow, some makers, they just make it somehow, and it turns out a banana shape, and a banana shape is just uncomfortable. Think of a guitar neck, and you can imagine how it is straight and then round like this, but the shape itself is quite straight, and the same is for the violin neck. So very likely the shape you have is in the middle of the neck, very thin, and towards the where the neck goes into the body, and towards the back box, it's very thick. And this certainly should be adjusted, and can be adjusted, and should be adjusted. And once this is adjusted, then you say, oh, sometimes the neck is so bad that you cannot adjust it, and then you have to get a neck graft. That means that you cut out the neck completely. From the scroll, also you cut into the peg box, and then you make a neck graft. And this is a work approximately 1,000 to 1,500 euro for a violin, more or less, with retouch and everything. And then probably then there's a fingerboard. Your fingerboard is not good, and but it depends on the instrument. You need to see some pictures, and if it's worth doing it, maybe it's better to change completely the instrument. But an uncomfortable neck is really a pain, and is no fun. Yeah. Search for a video regarding the neck, because I explained it somewhere. I don't see it now, and I cannot check it out exactly, but you should. There is a video on this regarding this matter. Okay. Then what else do we have here? I have a cello, and the D string always break always on the same spot in the upper nut. Can I do something to correct it? Yes, you have to, Chris, you have to get the upper nut. You have to get it fixed. Yeah. And now here from the sofa, it's pretty difficult to describe, but if this is your upper nut and your string is going here, and it should be round here, and then it goes to the fingerboard, and it is very much like this, and it is always cracking here, but there's not enough place, then you have to get the whole upper nut redone completely. If it is rather like this, and then here towards the peg box it's breaking, then the whole thing can be adjusted. But for you yourself, I think it is pretty difficult to adjust it, except you have some thin files which you can go in, and then you look at it, and then you just take away exactly where it is. Since the whole shape should be, if we have here, let's say this here is the peg box, yeah, and no, here it goes like this, and then this is the neck, and here is our upper nut, and here comes now the string here like this, and then it goes like this. In this area, the string should be round, and there should not be a dot too much here or here. If this is now our upper nut, it should not touch too much here and here, in order that it's like a geometrical nice line without any edge. Slightly edge, just a little bit, but not too much. And to do it in a good way, it takes time, and you have to do it by a Violinmaker. But we're in quarantine, you have difficulties to go to the Violinmaker, and so we have to find a solution. So let's say you are a pretty handy, good guy, and you're at home, then I would say you will also find, just by somewhere in the toolbox of your grandparents, a small piece of sandpaper. Let's say this is sandpaper. Then you just bend it, okay? Very nice, like this. So then it is a little bit of sandpaper like this. Here is the sand which is scratching, right? Then you keep it like this. You take off that string, and with this one you go inside, and then you can a little bit take away. Since we have now in quarantine a lot of time, you have plenty of time to do this. Once you see it's consumed, then you just bend it in a different area. This make it straight, and then it has a certain stiffness, and then you can a little bit work exactly in that area. But the best way, as soon as the quarantine is finished, go to the Violinmaker and get it done, okay? And then we don't talk here about making the upper nut with kitchen knife and Swiss knife and all this. You know, during wartime, they carved archings with spoon, okay? So you will, if you're inside it and you have to solve it because you don't get any other strings and you're sick of making a knot into the string, then you certainly will find a way to do that, okay? I'm really sorry about this. I'm a violinist from Saudi Arabia, just want to pay a violin. Hey, this is just nice. You write me an email, edgar@eras.com, and I'm always open. Eh? So then I will even give some to some colleagues of mine who have facing difficulties right now, financial difficulties. Frenchman, LTLDN, can you explain what in the design makes a Guarneri sound deep as compared to the Stradivari type? Would be useful to understand what technical makes each sound characteristics. Well, now it's a little difficult, and all my explanations are not very scientific, so it's not a very serious talking about how I explain that the Guarneri has the deep sound, but a little bit of idea I acquired about the whole thing while I was making those instruments. And one idea I think is that the Guarneri, if you look at it with its long straight F holes and the upper width in the C bouts, long Cs, quite open, and then lower end. The measurements are not so much large, narrow, very large, but on a Stradivari, it's all pretty equal. It's always violin shape. For somebody who didn't take care about looking at the Guarneri and Stradivari, they look all the same. But the difference between the upper, the C, and the lower area is a little bit less compared to a Stradivari. And the shape itself of the instrument as well, it goes a little bit into a larger area down below. And the Stradivari, compared to the Guarneri, is a little bit more up, a little bit more round in the upper area, larger in the upper, more narrow in the C bouts, and larger again in the lower area. And this large, narrow, large gives probably a little bit of a more beautiful sound, while this more straight measurements on a Guarneri gives a little bit more this rough Guarneri sound. That's what I think, which makes a little bit. Then certainly there are some Guarneris like the Ole Bull, which is small and lower shoulders and small itself, but still upper width in the C and lower is same concept, and you can hear definitely that it's a Guarneri. So I believe this is probably one of the reasons, but still every model, even among the Guarneris, the Isae sounds different than a Lord Wilton or a Heifetz or a Ole Bull, yeah. So it's every instrument has its outline which creates its own sound, okay? If everything is made in the proper way. Jay, Kim, Edgar, have you ever made a gamba, viola da gamba, bass, etc.? I made double basses with this shape, but no violins. I never made the viola da gamba, and I have to admit that every time I see one where the head is carved in a nice head like this, with lots of respect, I think I'm not able, but I don't know. I've never tried it. Should try to see if I'm able, but the rest is interesting. But nobody asked me, and I never had time to do so. And there's so much things to do on just regular violins, viola, cellos, and double basses that I didn't have time yet. Okay, Richard. Richard seems he comes from Vienna, maybe he comes from Singapore, who knows. Hello, Mr. Russ. I saw that on AliExpress that your cellos were being sold. Are they the same ones you sell in store? AliExpress could be it's yes, Alibaba, it's me myself. I decided to do it because the Chinese were always in China. You cannot see my homepage. You cannot see YouTube. Lots of things you cannot. But then at the very end, Chinese see certainly the ones who want they can see. But still, it pisses me off that they don't see my things. So that's why I just took Alibaba in order that they can see my instruments, see all the selection of instruments I have, and they can see that there is a Scala Perfetta for 3,320 and a Linea Macchi for 8,275 and my Master for 27,275, so that they get a picture that out of the same workshop there comes different categories and levels of instruments, and that has always been something I was very much attracted. Some other colleagues of mine, they just make only master, and I think it is nice, but I have a certain pleasure in creating something even for a lower price, honestly made, without secrets. Just do it in a nice way for little money and you get already something good. And that's why I made the Scala Perfetta, or we make it all together in the workshop, the Linea Macchi. If you come once to my workshop, you will see how we do that. So on AliExpress, it could be myself. I didn't never checked on AliExpress, but on Alibaba, I have all my things and everything very nicely explained and how the company is structured. And they want to know how many instruments of every type we can make in 2 weeks, in 1 week, in 1 day, in 1 hour. But yes, it's me. It's Sound of Cremona is my company, Ltd. Yes. Johannes Bechlein, very short to answer. How wide do you trim the feet of a viola bridge? Violin should be 4.5. For the viola, I would make like 5.2. Okay. And the size of the feet is also important. And while I make it on a violin, let's say 10.5 at the shortest, maybe 11 also millimeters. On a viola, I would make it 12.5, 13 on a bigger viola. Yeah, something like this. And on a viola, the bridge feeds, if they're standing like this, and then here's the bridge up, this size, you cut it also only from the inside, okay? And once you discover that the A and that, let's say the fourth and the third string is C and G string is not strong enough, then if the strings are here, then this one you can make a little bit smaller, like a quarter of a millimeter or even half of a millimeter smaller, this feet only, then you get the other sides up there stronger. If you want the others, the A string and A and D string stronger, then you can make it on the other side a little bit shorter, the feet, and you will see that it becomes stronger. Okay, so this is this. And then Jim, where is Jim? Jim, I lost him now. Sorry, I lost Jim. Where is Jim? Oh my God. Oof. Where's Jim? Madonna, I have so many questions here. Wow, 22 people, and I'm talking too much for every question. Sorry. Hi, Russ. I've recently started watching your videos. Very good. I may have missed it. Varnish, what is a good sealer? This is also a very good question. I will make a nice video. I probably in my 35 or 30 something years, 36 maybe, years of 36. Wow. I tried them all. If you are varnishing with spirit varnish, then I just put one layer of shellac, and then I start with the varnish to put it on. If it's oil varnish, then you actually have to put a sealer, which is definitely closing or avoiding that the varnish penetrates into the varnish. In the very beginning, I used a liquid from Winsor & Newton. This was just, I thought at that time, something which is, this is it. It's just a damp, because you are never sure that it really works. And then it seems that it works, and in some areas it goes in, looks ugly. Then I used the yellow of the egg. But it's like you can read in some artist handbooks, but works actually very nice. The yellow of the egg, it's soluble in with water. Then you put it on, and once it's drying, if somebody would put on some water, you cannot solve it anymore. This is the secret of tempera, right? And that worked actually very good. And then later on, I was a little bit quick and never had the eggs around the workshop and all this, So then I put it on just one layer of shellac again. And it worked also pretty good. That was when I was really under pressure. This is like 20 years ago. And then I discovered the magic about the miracle of Stradivari, who started in 1686 something. He changed his way of varnishing and his wood preparation. And they actually started the whole mystery of Stradivari's wood preparation. I will make a video about it because it's really interesting. And it's actually a question of putting a thin layer of protein on the plain wood. And this doesn't really close all the holes in the wood, but avoids that the varnish penetrates in. So it's changing the capillary, I don't know, the property of the holes, a little bit like the straw, which when you put it into the liquid, pulls up itself the liquid or another way around, you know. So this works really well. And so I use now casein with calcium, which I think is just great. You put it on, you take it away, and that's it. So there's actually nothing on the instrument, but it changed the chemical property of the pores, and then you put it on, and it even sounds better. This is something I really love. Hassan, hi Hassan, hi Edgar. Hassan, love from Pakistani violinists. This is great, man. Wish someday I could buy and play your handmade instrument. Me too. I would love to. But I have instruments over your area, you know. Yeah, love and safety for all of you guys, and I hope we soon get well and healthy. Me too. You can believe I'm just in the focus of Corona here. Hope we get out of this Corona pandemic safe, healthy, and more grateful. Same to you and to all of my viewers and the rest of the world, you know. It's just, I also help that it's taking away a lot of borders here, and we're all in the same situation. It's not the fault of anybody. It's just a phenomenon, and we have to get over it, and we just have to keep together and prepare ourselves to be better. The violinist, do you rent to buy system? Not yet, but sometimes yes. It depends on the situation. Write me an email what you need and what you want and what's your offer. Usually I'm always open to help my customers, and you name it, and then as long as I see that you follow your rules, I have no problem with that. Postai, thanks for your advice. You're welcome. I hope it works, and let me know if it's going away, the Wolftone. I'm suffering with you because it's just such a pain when you have one and you can't get rid of it. Daniel Yang, I've heard about many good instrument makers in China producing rather cheap but good quality instruments. That's correct. Chinese have an extremely good ability to make. They're really good. Every time I see them, and they're so hungry to know. I sometimes during the Shanghai Music Fair, I make some seminars and I'm explaining, and they really love my advices, and they're nice guys. So I should not completely ignore Chinese instruments, right? Right. Thank you for your deep realize. I think it's a great opportunity we all have to get for little money a great instrument. And as long as a Chinese instrument is sold as a Chinese instrument, or even better, the Chinese maker puts his name inside and says, hey, this was Chang Hang Sing, Bing Bong Bang, I don't know who, whatever, it's great, you know. What I just hate is if Chinese instruments are being sold as Italian, German, or whatever, you know. Just call things what they are, and then you will also have a certain success. Okay, that's my advice for all Chinese makers. I really have a lot of respect to their ability of making, and I really appreciate also the desire of knowing a little bit more, and there's some really good ones. Just if I think of the VSA, wow. Yeah? Zoltan, I'm sorry for not being clear. I meant when saying fifths, when we put one finger on two strings. So this is the string distance. So if you have difficulties to do that, then probably your strings are not the right distance. And it should be on a violin, on the upper part, it should be 16.5. Wow, I'm surprised that I still know all the measurements. In my workshop, I have in front of myself a paper, and I'm always double checking. 16.5 would be a general measurement. If you have tiny fingers and you want to get them a little bit closer, then even 16, okay? Then certainly it also depends what's on the bridge, you know. On the bridge, now I would love to ask Mean, what's the measurement? I would say 36.5 on a violin, 37 millimeters maximum. Okay, that's what I would suggest now. String largeness. Okay, Mina, Is it possible to make a violin from wood other than spruce, maple, willow combination? Yes, of course. I made even a violin out of poplar, out of pear, out of what else did I make it? I made it also out of a wood which was 48,000 years old. Um, like mahogany, rosewood for the back or front. No. Okay, now I got it. Okay. So, Mina, you can actually do a lot of things, and the bigger the instrument, the less the material influences its acoustical result. So, in Latin America, you can see out of mahogany a double bass, for instance, which is made top, back, everything mahogany and sounds great. Okay, you probably wouldn't win the competition to get into the Vienna Philharmonic, but it sounds really nice. But if it comes down to a violin, then the smaller it is, the more it influences the material. So let's say every time you take a different wood, certainly it sounds already different. And even if you would now take maple, then you have to watch out that it's cut in the right way. So if it's a slab cut, it's very good for a viola, for a violin, no good. In your case here, the top has to be soft as spruce. So you cannot make the top out of rosewood, for instance. Then the whole thing doesn't work anymore, okay? It would be like you would make now an engine where the piston, which goes up and down, is made out of wood. Doesn't work, okay? This doesn't work. You need something, you could use cedar, or something like spruce, something similar, redwood in America, something a little bit softer, okay? But you cannot make mahogany or rosewood, which with rosewood at that point you could use for the ribs, for the neck, for the scroll, for the pegs, tailpiece. The bridge I wouldn't make out of something like this, but because it has to be strong and light. So this is a little bit a question. Thanks, Mina. It's a good question. Okay, Mina. Also, what about the bridge? Could it be different wood, but with the same anatomy and grain direction? It certainly it could be everything. You could even make it out of carbon fiber, but you don't see them out of carbon fiber because it doesn't really work that nice. It has to be a certain thicknesses, but not too thick. And it should be also light. So I heard something about that the best violin bridge should be 1.48 grams, okay? But then it should be large enough in order that it still stands straight, nice on attached securely without that everything jumps into your face. So probably the maple choice is the best choice to get it like this, okay? So I wouldn't change the wood here. Blue, ho, ho, ho. Hi, hello, Edgar. I am enjoying the live chat. Do you prefer a particular type of graduation pattern? Do different patterns give a particular sound? Yes, of course. Italians made it, let's say, in a very simplified manner, the top regular thickness and the back a thick center and then a thinner upper and lower part, okay? And this is the secret of the Italian sound. While the Germans made already on the back, they made a bigger center, but not this big like the Italians, a little bit less. And then they always pay a lot of attention that it's going thin, 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 thin. So all sides, all regularly slower. And they do a lot of effort to make it nice, while Italians just make it quick, fast. I think it's, and the Germans do that also on the top. They make it underneath the bridge thicker, and then they make it slowly getting thinner, and then they get a nice, beautiful sound. But if you want a real Italian bomb and a really crunchy, great sound, then pay a little bit less attention on the whole thing. If it's a little bit irregular, it's even better for the sound. If it's not too symmetric, even better, I would say. But keep the concept of having a regular thickness on the top and a thickness concept similar to a loudspeaker on the back. Okay, I hope this was a very good question, good answer, but this is actually the main reason where the difference between Italian and German sound or other sounds. Ali Reza. Hi Edgar, looking very much forward for a video on varnish ground. Me too. I just want to have now the time to be in the workshop. In the meanwhile, could you give a little bit of information here for the time being? This would be a nice idea. You know what we can do here, because there would be so much to say, and we're already like 70 minutes online here, and I won't be able to finish here my chat, and I just want to make it for 1 hour, because then Elena has an online streaming lesson with her class, so I have to finish here. I will prepare a video on this, always from at home, and I will publish it in the next few days or 10 days, okay? We'll try what I can do, okay? Ali Reza, I will do that, okay? Thank you for the detailed answer. You're welcome. Christopher Baviera. Ciao, scrivo in inglese. I have to change my bridge first time. It's better to go to shop or to luthier, because in shop I saw just uncutted bridges. So what does it change if you do right with luthier? Certainly a luthier is better, and I think even in the shop they don't just take a bridge and bump it on. There is no bridge ready. You have to have a violin maker who has to adjust the violin bridge for your violin. Doesn't exist a bridge which you buy and then you put it on. Every bridge has to be first bought raw and then has to be adjusted. So you need to have a luthier. So if you want to be sure that it is properly made, go directly to a luthier, and that's the thing, okay? And don't save money on it. It just makes so much big difference if it's properly made. Basia, I absolutely love my videos. We are match. I don't remember my past violins having a scroll this heavy. Could be my mind. It's a powerful instrument. Yeah, powerful could be also because the scroll is so big, you know. It's a big scroll, is not so bad. I hope your family, friends, and co-workers are safe. All the best. We are safe, and it's really great. Ciao Lorenzo Radaelli. Anche lui, guarda che cosa sto combinando. Amore, a che ora è lezione? Wow, we have to hurry up here. Last questions, please, because otherwise I won't be there. Do you think violin bridges with adjustable feet like the France Gaelic should be avoided? It's a nice thing to do to get something quick on, but it's not a serious bridge. You know, it's you know, for somebody who is not able to cut the bridge feet. But if you just get a nice bridge on the luthier, is better. Chris, I want to become a violin luthier. How and where can I do it? Send me an email and I'll send you all the information. Arfan, merci. You're welcome. Jay, I'm planning to buy a toolkit on your web page, Soundpost tool. How long would it take to arrive? Very quick. I got the order this morning and it was shipped already. Okay. So just place the order and I will send it to you. We are sending with DHL. Johannes, thank you for the bridge feed with. I've also seen your great X Factor movies, so I can start over now. That's right. Ali Reza, also, since you talked about length of violin bridge came up, what is the effect of longer bridge feet? It's all about the volume of the sound. If they're a little bit smaller, it's a little bit more free. It's the space in between, inside between the feet, which opens up a little bit the instrument, huh? Don't tell everybody, okay? This is just mystery secrets. Emilia, in one of your previous videos, you told measurements when buying a violin. Maybe you could tell them for cello. I know, but then the virus started to come. We were already recording at that time. I will do it definitely, okay? Arfan, merci for all your videos and advices. You're welcome, Arfan. Jim Belle, thank you for your time. You're welcome. We see us next Monday, same time here from the sofa. Very much. I'm looking forward. Thank you very much for your pleasant blue. You're welcome. It was a pleasure. I hope I didn't talk too much. My father always says I'm talking too much. I hope this was in your interest. It was a joyful, nice Monday afternoon. My wife is here waiting. She's going to have her next lesson, and I have to cut down. See you next week. All the best. Bye bye. Ciao, 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 ciao. Welcome. Bye bye. Yeah. How can I turn it off? Da, da, da.